"Man, I can't believe we searched for hours and found no supplies," Chris said. "Shh, quiet down, or the freaks might hear. We're in dangerous territory now," Nick whispered. The two continued walking through the abandoned apartment complex. The buildings were all dilapidated, riddled with bullet holes and old blood stains. Nick pointed to what looked like a grocery store. "Look over there," he said in a low voice. As they walked toward the building, Chris frowned. "What are the odds that we find anything in here? Wouldn't this be the most picked-apart place around?" "It's a possibility," Nick admitted, tracking the shadows. "But what do we have to lose? We haven't found anything yet, and we're losing daylight." They approached a jagged opening in the wall. Inside, the store was dark and messy, littered with open cans and the stench of spoiled food. They pushed deeper into the gloom, checking behind overturned shelves until Chris hissed in a harsh whisper, "There is nothing here." "Wait," Nick said, halting. "You see that?" He snapped his flashlight beam toward a closed door at the back of the store. "Maybe there are some medical or food supplies through there." Simultaneously, they drew their weapons from their holsters, keeping their flashlight beams locked on the peeling paint of the door. "I'll open. You clear it on 3, Nick muttered. He took a breath. 1, 2, 3. Nick flung the door open. Chris swept his weapon left to right, his flashlight illuminating a steep flight of stairs leading down into a pitch-black basement. "Oh, hell no," Chris stammered, stepping back. "I'm not going down there. Who knows what could be lurking in the dark." "Stop being a baby and come on," Nick snapped. "We were tasked with this supply run. We're not going back empty-handed." "Well then, I guess I am a big-ass baby, because I'm staying right here," Chris exclaimed. They bickered in tense whispers for a few more seconds, until Chris threw his hands up. "Look, how about this? I stay up here and keep watch. I'll make sure nothing sneaks up on you, and I can keep an eye on our van while you're gone." Nick begrudgingly sighed. "Okay, fine. I'll call for backup if I need it." "Okay, be careful." "Yeah." Nick locked his flashlight in one hand and his gun in the other, crossing his wrists in a tight Harry's formation. He slowly descended the gritty concrete steps. At the bottom he paused, scanning the subterranean dark left to right. He pressed on, checking corners inch by inch until he came across a room swallowed by total darkness. Crouching low, he swept his light across the floor. The sight made his blood run cold. A horde of infected huddled in the center of the room. Some seemed to be resting, twitching in their sleep, while others tore into something on the floor. Beyond them, Nick spotted a reinforced window with a clear view of a storage room, stocked with exactly the medicine they needed. He took a slow, trembling breath. "Okay, if I can make it to that supply room without alerting them, I'm home free." Shuffling his feet inch by inch, he crept along the wall. Suddenly one of the infected stiffened, its head snapping in his direction. Nick instantly dropped his flashlight beam directly to the ground, freezing in place. The creature sniffed the air, grunted, and turned away. Nick reached the door, slowly turning the knob until it clicked and slipped inside. He shut it softly behind him, letting out a ragged exhale. "Whew." He quickly unzipped his duffel bag and began sweeping medical supplies, antibiotics, gauze, painkillers, into the pack. Ripping the zipper shut, he threw the bag over his shoulder and slipped back out into the basement. He tried to retrace his steps, but a pale, decaying hand shot out from the dark, grabbing his ankle. "Ah!" Nick screamed. The basement erupted. The entire horde snapped awake, their heads whipping toward him. Nick kicked the infected off his leg with all his might and went into a full sprint toward the stairs. He flew up the steps in a panic, screaming to the top of his lungs, "Run!" Chris didn't need to be told twice. They sprinted out of the dilapidated grocery store as the shrieking horde burst from the basement behind them. Lunging into the van, Nick slammed the keys into the ignition, threw it into drive, and tore out into the night, the infected trailing close in the rearview mirror. Nick gripped the steering wheel, his heart hammering against his ribs. That was way too close. What the hell happened down there? Chris yelled, clutching the dashboard. I was doing well until I wasn't, but I got what we needed. The engine roared as they sped down the ruined highway. Then a sound cut through the engine noise, a piercing, sea-screeching roar, echoing from the darkness ahead. Chris froze. What the hell was that? I don't know, Nick stammered. Holy shit, Chris shrieked. Both men glanced at their side view mirrors, and total terror struck. Sprinting down the asphalt, catching up at an impossible speed, was something worse than an infected. It was a fast, long-limbed creature with razor-sharp claws resembling owl talons, moving with the terrifying agility of a seasoned athlete. "Drive faster," Chris screamed, his voice cracking. "This is about as fast as this piece of junk can go," Nick yelled back. The creature closed the distance in a heartbeat. With a sickening crunch, it slammed into the back of the van, sending the vehicle violently airborne. The van flipped multiple times, metal crushing against concrete in a deafening wreck. Neither man survived the impact. Days later, a search party from their camp would find the mangled, empty wreckage of the van. But of Nick and Chris, there was no sign left behind.